that's all drawn out, I'm going to come in now with some water all the way over. I've got some different colours here. So I'm going to start with a little bit of raw sienna. Just start to take that in. I don't mind if it goes further than the bird. We're just starting to build a base. It's actually quite nice if it flows around. I'll purposely take it further if I need to. I'm going to take a little bit of the raw sienna along the branch. I'm coming into some burnt sienna. Again, just dabbing nice and loosely. Where there's some areas of warmth. Pop a little bit on here. Rinsing my brush again. I'm coming into some cerulean blue. So the first thing I'm going to do is just pop a little bit into the background. Load my brush up with water, dab into the blue. So get a nice lovely little wash. And we're going to pop some bits of green in here as well. So this is sap green. Coming into the background. Some nice strokes in there, just to give an indication of some trees really. I'm not going to do too much with the background, so this is just creating a little bit of atmosphere. I'm going to rinse my brush off. And I'm going to drop down to a smaller brush, to my medium size one. And we're going to come into some sepia, so a nice dark brown. And with the, I'm just sort of stroking round the bird. I want to give a little bit of a fluffiness. And the wet in wet paint should do that quite nicely. And then I can come in and add some detail later. So this paint's really thick. I'm going into neat paint here. And with a smaller brush, I'm in quite a lot of control here. Just going to flex some through here. And remember, we're going for loose, so these little bits, we don't want to control them. We're going to let them do their thing. That's the beauty of watercolour, is just letting it do its thing. So I'm coming underneath the wing now, just to create a bit more shadow. Leave that bit nice and light there. Again, I'm just waiting really, just so that it starts to dry a little bit and I can come back in with some more. This is still just that dark brown. Nice and thick on the brush. And just controlling those little strokes. Nice thick paint, and it's doing its thing. Bring that away from the eyes. I've got that nice light patch happening there. Not bothered about the beak or the eye yet. We'll come back to do those later. Just concentrating on getting some nice markings. I'm going to swap down now to a rigger brush, and again the dark sepia. I'm just going to pop in the start of the legs. It's flowing, I want it to do that. I'm going to bring a little bit along this bottom of this branch as well. We want that flow to happen. Okay, I'm going to dry that off. Okay, so that's nice and dry now, and I've swapped down to a number 2 round. I'm just going to come in and get some of the detail of the eye and the beak in here. So on to dry, and then I'm just going to pop in a little eye. So this is with the sepia, and I'm leaving a tiny, tiny white dot there of a highlight. I'm just going to pull some of that colour around near the eye to give a little bit more definition. And then I'm going to do the same with the beak. Come on to dry. Nice steady hand. Pop that little beak in. Just looking at where the direction the markings go, so I can take a little bit back that way, give a bit of an indication. Take an extra bit of colour into the beaks. I've just dabbed into a little bit of raw sienna that I can pop in there. And do some little legs. So that's a little bit of raw sienna going on. And then a little bit of the sepia into that. So this is all on to dry. When it's on to dry, you're in control. Pop some little more markings on. This is just all with the sepia. This nice dark edge under the wing. A little bit of dark there. I'm going to swap to a number 6. Just dab into a little bit of water, and I just want to soften that bit in. So I'm just taking a little bit of water to soften that edge in, and a little bit of water underneath to just help to soften that edge in. I don't want it to be too stark. You can dab into these as well if you want to blend a little bit. Quite a nice effect. Pick up some raw sienna and come back along the branch, and a little bit of the green, the sap green, take that in, just all mixing together, and a little bit of the sepia. And put that along the bottom edge of the branch. Give a really nice shadow. And where the bird sat, you want a bit of shadow just there as well. I'm going to get my long thin rigger, just come into the sepia, and we're going to add to the fluffiness now. So I'm just going to pop in a few fluffy bits there and a few fluffy bits here. It's basically wherever you want them to be. Make sure you're loading your brush up with quite a lot of paint and quite a lot of water when you're doing this. So what you can do then is take your round number 6 and just touch in with some water. That helps to soften all that in. If you touch in little places, you can just help a few of these move out as well. So it's not too, so we're going loose today, so it's not too uniform. If it goes too far, dry your brush off, just push it back. Going to take a little bit of the green in now, just here. And this is called negative painting, and the reason it's called negative painting is because you're bringing the background in to create something in the foreground. So I want a little bit more fluffiness to appear here. So to do that, I'm painting inwards and creating little bits of fluffy featheriness just here. Just breaking into the bird with the background. And then I can just soften in this edge with a little bit of water. Take a little bit of the cerulean blue in, you might see that a bit more. I don't think it's picked up particularly well on the camera. So I'm just going to dab in a little bit more cerulean blue. And you're just breaking through the edge of the bird, and it gives the lighter feathers a chance to stand out a little bit more. Just dab a little bit more water in there. I'm just going to dry that off. Okay, so that's all dry now, and what I'm going to do now is just start to lift a few areas of light. So this is just a round number 6 brush with the water on, and then what I'm doing is agitating the surface and lifting with a little bit of tissue, so I can start to get those areas of pattern. Just a few little areas, highlighted a little bit more. Depending on what sort of paper you've got, you might find that this happens very easily. Some papers it's harder to do. It's all to do with how much sizing is on the paper. So you might need to come back over a couple of times. You could use a little bit of white gouache if you wanted to, just to get the same sort of effect if it doesn't work. See, it's lifting nicely. Don't do too much of this. You just want little bits here and there. Some nice little highlights. I'm going to try to lift a very little highlight on the beak as well. So this is with my number 2. I'm just agitating on the surface with some water, and then I'm just lifting out. So I've got a very little highlight there. The last thing I want to do is just do some splattering on here. So what I've got is a toothbrush. I'm going to dip it into the water. I'm going to dip it into some paint. So I've got some blue here. I'm going to hold the toothbrush. I'm using my thumb, pull it towards me, keeping it quite close. You get a really nice splattery effect. If it goes on the bird and you don't want it on the bird, you can just dab those little bits off. Coming into a little bit of green as well. And a little bit of sepia. The closer you are to the page, the more in control you are of that splatter. So I've just popped my colours down here that I've used for this picture, just so you've got a better reference. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial, and have a little go. So this is raw sienna, burnt sienna, cerulean, sap green and sepia.